coherence, and the limits of understanding. The known is in effect a matrix-like assemblage. It is a perceptual handicap which mentors humans into atrophy. For instance, old people suffer from degenerative diseases, but what truly impacts them is the inability to rescind the mindset taught to them at an early age. We teach children to identify with objectified ecosystems where the relationship between meaning and context is static, fed through coherence and continuity. As people age, they relinquish the ability to refresh their inner state of awareness, which makes them less adaptable. Instead, these people become stuck on past contextual relationships no longer relevant to newer times. Sounds familiar? Moreover, many adults trained to understand everything lose perspective in an over-contextualized world. They overthink. People with limited perceptual skills take refuge in the world of understanding precisely because that is all they have. However, the lure of understanding narrows the field of exposure to the limits of what can be understood while disregarding the rest. And more precisely, human faculties built to perceive widely and deeply stumble onto the narrow confines of descriptive coherence and remain stuck there until these individuals die or until something or someone frees them from their skullduggery. This may seem dubious, but common sense, while useful, is a form of skullduggery when it restrains a perceptual outlook free from an obligation to understand within contextual limits. Coherence becomes vital then as a limit to participation from ranging beyond the norm into the unknown. The end of coherence is not incoherence or even chaos, although people trapped by descriptive linear context may insist it is. What is language but a tool in a sentence? Clarity owes no allegiance to either coherence or incoherence, and contextual integrity is not an obstacle to its practice. But read on, as this is a recurrent theme about a subject that cannot be defined, explained, nor can we understand it. We can talk around it. A defined perspective expropriates expectancy of an oncoming experience through the small talk we engage in, while robbing us of that resource. As an undefined experience of such depth, we gain insight into who we are far beyond any contextual explanation. We have trained ourselves to understand, but understanding here is inherently allegiant to the known and interferes with the experience beyond it. If you are trained to reflect only what you know, can you expand your awareness beyond it? Stop here for a moment and watch your mind operate, then take another breath. Explanations as contextual interpretations create boundaries at the linear end of their description. People often shut down when they come upon something they cannot understand, or they ignore it. At the extreme end, where content no longer validates the described exposure, lies the ghost of its opposite. Coherence, reliability, and continuity no longer manage the narrative, which soon devolves into conspiracy. What our fringe conspiracies are, if not understanding, no longer held accountable to mainstream thinking. Most people fed by such stratagem are reactionaries, unhappy with a world no longer securely anchored in its contextual assemblages, and worst, they seem unable to extract themselves from it. Prisoners of the artifice of context, they are being played and play up to the limits of understanding. Many serve the remainder of their lives as contextual servants, or worse, they become unwitting agents reinforcing the predicament of their plight. The world stagnates from cognition displayed through diametrical terms and its associative contexts. Will humans ever rise beyond the designs and consequences of such a scheme? What is understanding, and what is it based on? Understanding is a tool of context, and so are thinking and explanations, precisely because these tools train yet constrain the user to a finite yet understandable exposure. Many people feel the need to explain and frame reality through a compulsory need to define, as if without definition they are lost. When unable to classify into recognizable chunks of endless classifications and labels that create our contextual reality, individuals create spurious and convoluted designs and associations to make up for it. Extreme right or left belief systems, antagonistic to each other, are woven from the same cloth. They are positional in nature. Instead of saying, "Who am I?" they say, "I am a contextual tenant or agent embracing my defined perspective without the awareness of recognizing this is what has happened to them." A world consumed by the need to define its reality creates this imposition on its participants. Glance, if you will, at certain politicians or religious zealots, and you may recognize what is happening to them. The more extreme they seem to be, the more literal and linear they apply meaning as a justification towards their uncompromising position. In a way, we've locked up our world by over-contextualizing it as if everything in it can be described and understood. Description becomes a slated position, and that position fills the world with other slated and fixed positions, contracting the world into an over-contextualized reality. Humans fixate on these and become stuck on one or more or many. What humans understand are the relationships created by words between contextual positions run by meaning, labels, and symbols. People are consummate talkers and thinkers. They do so because if they stopped the cacophony of words, some of them might realize they are being played, not by others similarly affected, but by their obsessive need to define and understand. Contrary to scientific dogma, the world is not its explanations, no matter how functionally descriptive. If you are convinced a functionally descriptive engagement enables mastery, carefully look at what this statement caters to. Come visit us at teachtolearning.com.